All right, boom. Let's go. So we are in here, and tonight what we're going to do is we're going to go in on this Bill Cosby situation, and all we're going to do is just connect the dots. This is not aimed at particular person or even people, but it's just the fact that my take on this is that us as an African American community or Afro American community or Moorish or whatever you want to call yourself, we have a tendency to get kind of emotional on things and without doing any basic research, we even reading on things. So right here, I'm gonna start with this video right here, and on this video, I was given this video to look at by this brother. I don't even know what this brother name is, but he has a video. He has a show called The Advised TV Show. And on here, apparently, he has some woman named Nicole. I never met these people at all, but apparently, uh, this these people right here, the video is about an hour long, and basically, you can go there yourself and just look at it. But the key words that he uses and that she uses is, he has a lot of conspiracy going on, really no information. He was asking questions, really didn't bring anything to the table, really didn't read anything. And she apparently was up there at the court and she gave what she felt was going on there. But there was a lot of feeling, really no fact about anything. But she felt as though Bill Cosby was railroaded, and I get that, you know. Uh, but my take on all this is that Bill Cosby railroaded himself. And because Bill Cosby railroaded himself, uh, why should we, as an African American community, have his back? And I'm going to go in on that, okay? But first things first, I want y'all to listen to this little clip that I took out of here, and then we'll go in from there. When they brought out the deposition about the Quaaludes, and he was talking about Quaaludes, did he say anything about Okay, so right there, he asked her a question about did Andrea Constant receive Quaaludes, and she's shaking her head no, and then she says, "Is there anything in that deposition talking about Quaaludes?" Well, apparently there is things in the deposition that are talking about Quaaludes, but you have to really look at the fact of how we got here. How we got here. And that's what I really want to focus on. How did we get here? And what were some of the mistakes on how we got here? First of all, let me debunk some of those things. It don't have shit to do with NBC at all whatsoever. And I'm gonna prove that. Never had anything to do with NBC. Never had anything to do with uh all all this crap about uh Emmett Till, comparing him to Emmett Till and Illuminati members and all this craziness that just making us just look crazy. So anyway, let's go ahead and read some things, and then what we're going to do after we read some things, we're going to listen to some experts because right now, you know, I don't know these people. I don't know what their credentials are, but I'm pretty sure that they're not lawyers. So we're going to hear those things from lawyers' perspectives. And what we're going to do is we're going to hear some things from comedians' perspectives, people that were actually in the industry that said that Bill was actually doing these things. So let's go here. So if you guys haven't heard or haven't read the deposition, here we go. These are, this is the deposition, okay? And this deposition is between Andrea Constand's lawyer and Bill Cosby. And we're going to get into that, okay? So, on Constant, when did you first develop a romantic interest in Andrea? This is Cosby, probably the first time I saw her at Temple's Arena. So, the thing is this, is that everybody's saying that, she's a lesbian and that, Cosby, I can't see Cosby even messing with this chick. Well, by Cosby's own admission, when he first saw her at Temple's Arena, down at Temple, he started liking the chick. All right. On the night in question, can you tell me what you recall of the night in which you gave pills to Andrea? He says that she came to the house. Right? Now, this is the thing. During this question, she says, in which you gave the pills to Andrea. Okay. Now, the thing about it is this, is that Bill is real sloppy. And as an elder in the community, what I mean, what in the world are you bringing a woman to your home for? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's see what he says. He says, Andrea came to the house. I called her. We talked about Temple University. Now, this is the thing. He called her. They talked about Temple University. I mean, first of all, the brother game is weak. You know, if he wanted to get with her, he should have just came out and said, I wanted to get with you. If she would have turned him down, she would have turned him down. And if he just went, if it was all about sex, then all he had to do, basically, he had enough money or whatever, or he just had to have her sign an agreement. But anyway, let's continue. We talked about her position, and then I went upstairs and I got 3 pills. So this, she comes in the house. Immediately, they talked about her position at a temple. Bill Cosby says he went upstairs, he got 3 pills, I brought them down. They are the equivalent of 1.5. The reason why I gave them and offered them to Andrea, which she took after examining them, was because she was talking about stress. Okay. All right, so this is the whole thing. This is in his deposition. Well, the thing about it is, people were saying that he was talking about Benadryl or whatever, you know, and didn't say anything about Benadryl. Everybody knows, and I'm pretty sure that he knew that, and we're gonna get into that real quick about this particular answer. He never said nothing about Benadryl. He said he was talking about pills, and I guess in this was the understanding that was going on, that he was talking about Quaaludes. So he didn't say Quaaludes, he didn't say Benadryl, but we're gonna get into all that real quick. All right. Cosby describes a several minute sexual encounter that followed. Question. So you're not telling us that you verbally asked her for permission? Now he says, I didn't say it verbally. I said, the action is my hand on her midriff, which is skin. Okay. So he didn't ask her for anything. You know what I mean? He didn't say it verbally, but the action, he just started rubbing on the chick. He says, I'm not lifting any clothing up. I don't remember fully what it is, but it's there and I can feel. I got her skin, it's just above the hand, and it's just above where you can go under the pants. So Cosby did not ask the chick, can he touch on her and everything. He just starts going in. Now, this is after he done gave the chick Benadryl or Quaaludes, whatever you want to say. The problem is that This chick never consented, you know. Then what happens? He says, I don't hear her say anything, and I don't feel her say anything. And so I continue. And I go into the area that is somewhere between permission and rejection, and I'm not stopped. This boy, the problem is right here, this right here is what sealed his fate right here. You know? This answer right here is what sealed his fate. You know? He didn't he not even asking for permission. You know, he's just taking it. You know? No, he's not having sex with the chick or whatever like that. But still, all in all, he's touching all on everything after he done drugged the chick. Whether it's with Quaaludes or with Benadryl. The problem is that this is something that you should know that you're not supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be doing. And I could go on and on. So, Troani, I guess that's pronounced it right, which is Constance's lawyer asked Cosby about a phone call a year later between Cosby and Constance's mother. That's Gianni Constant who told him something was wrong with her daughter, who was also on the line. So Cosby is talking to Andrea Constant and her mother a year later. So what was after the incident that happened? What was the thing that you did not want to talk about? I didn't want to talk about what did you give her. Why? Because we're over the telephone. I'm not sending anything, the pill bottle, over the mail, and I'm not giving anything. Why didn't you just simply tell her that you had given her daughter an over the counter drug called Benadryl? Cosby says, I'm not going to argue with somebody's mother who is accusing me of something. And then when I apologize, she says to me, that's all I wanted to know, Bill. And I'm apologizing because I'm thinking this is a dirty old man with a young girl. I apologize. I said to the mother, it was digital penetration. So even over the phone, Bill admits that he was thinking that she was thinking that this is a dirty old man with a young girl. Bill, if you didn't do anything, why did you apologize? That's the whole thing. He apologized to the chick mom, and then went on to tell her mother I digitally penetrated her, and I guess digital penetration is not penile penetration, but digital penetration must be, with your fingers or whatever like that. Okay. When she sat here and cried, Constant, how did you feel? Okay, I think Andrea is a liar, and I know she is a liar because I was there. Okay, so on one instance, Cosby is apologizing. Cosby is basically saying he gave her some pills, whether it was Benadryl, whether it was Quaaludes, whatever like that. But Cosby also admits that he didn't give any consent to the chick. I mean, she never agreed on anything. What I mean, which basically sealed his fate. And this right here, this deposition was used as evidence in his case. That's why Cosby never took the stand. He never testified. Because if he went against anything that happened in this deposition, he would be doing some serious time. But let's talk about this Quaalude thing because people always say Quaaludes wasn't in there or whatever like that. But in the deposition, this is what Cosby is talking about. Now, for all those talking about, I can't believe it's 60 something women or whatever like that, but by Cosby's own admission, he been drugging women and giving them Quaaludes since the 70s. Okay? Let's go on. Says, why didn't you ever take the Quaaludes? Hey, because I used them. Answer, because I used them. For what? The same as the person would say, have a drink. And question, you gave them to other people? Cosby, yes. Did you believe at the time that it was illegal for you to dispense those drugs? Cosby, yes. So he knew when he was giving Quaaludes, even back in the 70s, that what he was doing was wrong. You know? He knew what he was doing was illegal. How did the doctor know that you didn't plan to use them? What was happening at that time was that was Quaaludes happened to be a drug that kids, young people were using to party with, and there were times when I wanted to have them just in case. Question: when you got the Quaaludes, this is for Cosby. Listen to this question. When you got the Quaaludes, was it in your mind that you were going to use these Quaaludes for young women that you wanted to have sex with? Cosby, yes. Let's keep on reading this deposition. Okay. In 1976, Cosby met some chick. She was 19. Now remember, Cosby was born in the 30s. This is 76, so Cosby had to be 40 something years old. You know, he messed with a 19-year-old chick, but whatever. He gave her Quaaludes and a glass of water before they had sex. Cosby. This is another chick. This is in the same deposition. In a civil deposition that had to do with Andrea Constant. That had to do with Constant. So now, in this same deposition, he's talking about Teresa Saragnisi back in the 1970s, which is another thing I don't understand why Cosby's lawyer let him talk about something else. But hey, this just added as proof that they was just setting a precedence that this is what this guy does. Okay? So he goes back in 76. Did you give her Quaaludes? Yes. What effect did the Quaaludes have on her? She became in those days what was called high. She said that she believed she was not in a position to consent to intercourse after you gave her the drug. Do you believe that is correct? Cosby, I don't know. How many years we talking about? 76. I meet Miss Picking in Las Vegas. She meets me backstage. I give her Quaaludes. We then have sex. This seemed like somebody responsible. I think not. Question: why didn't you ever take them yourself? So Cosby never take Quaaludes himself. Answer: I get sleepy. How would you know that if you never took them? This is Cosby. Quaaludes happen to be a depressant. I've had surgery, and while being given pills that block the nervous system, in particular areas of the muscle, the back, I found that I get sleepy and I want to stay awake. Is that why you don't drink alcohol? Cosby. Exactly. Okay, so this is back in 76. So let's fast forward. Okay, so we're going to fast forward about 30 years later. He describes a sexual encounter he had with one of them in 2000. So Cosby was filming one of his sitcoms. The agency would send 5 to 6 models to a studio every week. He says he would give the struggling young actresses a very, very good meal. Now, he's having sex with them back in 2000. Question. She says that just days after she told you that she did not drink, you told her to come over to your house and serve her an amaretto. Do you call some of her an amaretto? Cosby, no. That you told her to sit next to you on the couch, and that you did put your arm around her and began massaging her shoulders and arms. Did that occur? This occurred sometimes after you met her parents. I need clarification on time. She's 17. Now, this chick is 17 at the time. And I believe throughout the time she knows you, she becomes 18 or 19. So Cosby is is waiting on a chick to become 18. Thank God. And then on a later occasion, you had her masturbate you with lotion. Did that ever happen? Cosby. Yes. She used the lotion to rub your penis and make you ejaculate. Cosby. Bingo. Come on, man. This is in 2000. So right now, as I look at this deposition, you know, the lawyer, Cosby's lawyer, is letting the other lawyer depose him and making him admit to things that he was doing back in the 70s and in 2000, which to me really doesn't make any sense, you know. So he goes on, you know, about you guys can read this for yourself, you know, and how he was having sex with other women and how he was hiding money from his wife, telling his wife that you know, I would uh, not let her know, and if she asked, I would tell her I was helping somebody out. And this is not the first time that Cosby paid off somebody. He paid off the same Teresa Saraganese. Okay, he paid her off, and remember, he was messing with her back in 1976. So Cosby has a long history of, you know, drugging girls and paying them off. But it gets real interesting, and this is from the LA Times newspaper. No fake news. So anyway, let's see. Now, we have to find out, when did all this start? Like, how did this thing unravel? What made this thing? What happened? What happened? How come he didn't get locked up back in 2004 or 2005? How come he was allowed to walk the streets for so long? And what happened? What transpired? Okay. Well, let's go to the Atlantic. Boom. Okay. This is the beginning of Bill Cosby's trouble. See, Bill Cosby was always talking this, you know, black man, and we got to do right, and all this other type stuff. And, you know, he wanted to be America's dad or the black man's dad. And, you know, that's how he was. He was a very arrogant person. And this is what he said at the 2004 speech at the NAACP. You're going to say, well, what does this have to do with the NAACP in that speech? Well, follow me. Let's go in. Okay. So back in 2004, Cosby went in front of NAACP. This is what he says, and I quote: "People getting shot in the back of the head over a piece of pound cake. Then we all run out in our outrage. The cops shouldn't have shot him." Cosby says, "What in the hell was he doing with the pound cake in his hand?" This became known as the pound cake speech. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, in our cities and public schools, we have 50% dropout. In our neighborhood, we have men in prison. No longer is a person embarrassed because they're pregnant without a husband. No longer is a boy considered an embarrassment if he tries to run away from being the father of the unmarried child. Okay, now, first of all, you know, going so right now what he's doing is that he's thrusting himself into the public genre, and what he's doing is that he's trying to be this moral upright guy, you know, this moral upright guy, but he's telling people, you know, listen. you're doing wrong, you're doing all this craziness and everything like that. If a cop shoots you in the back of the head, it's your fault because you shouldn't have been having a pound cake in your hand in the first place, and a whole lot, all this condescending things that he was saying against black people. And then on top of that, the thing is that you can't uh, come against people, and you yourself, you got a deep dark secret of what you're out here doing. That's not that doesn't have any moral fiber, so to say. Okay, and this speech right here was the beginning of all his troubles. Okay, and we're going to go into that right there. All right, so okay. Okay. Okay, so after he gave that speech the next year, Andrea Constand, whom Cosby was convicted of assaulting on Thursday, we report him to the authorities. Okay, so this is what happened. Andrea Constand didn't go to him for money or whatever like that. She actually went to the cops and reported him to the cops, saying, "Yo, this is what happened. You know, this is what happened." All right. All right, so we're going to go down a little bit. Okay, so this is what happened. Now, this is how his deposition had got released from this judge. In July 2015, a judge ruling by the Associated Press decided to unseal the 2005 depositions of Cosby from a lawsuit filed by Constant, in which he acknowledged obtaining sedatives to use on a woman he wanted to have sex with. The judge Eduardo Rubino wrote that Cosby's decision to present himself as a moral paragon had affected his decision about whether the documents were of public interest. The stark contrast between Bill Cosby, the public moralist, and Bill Cosby, the subject of serious allegations concerning improper and perhaps criminal conduct, is a matter as to which the AP and by extension the public has a significant interest, Rubino wrote. So in other words, you know, Cosby had this deposition, which was sealed. It wasn't supposed to be, and we're going to get on that on why it was sealed and what happened. Cosby had this deposition on things that were sealed. Okay? It was sealed. And what happened was the AP was getting word of all these women that was coming forward saying, hey, you know, they knew about that there was a sealed deposition. And so the AP said, hey, listen, Judge, we need to find out what's going on because Cosby is out here, talk about how bad everybody is. But apparently with this sealed deposition, we want to know if he has any dirt in his closet. And so that's what the judge ruled on. And then before the judge ruled on that and actually unsealed the documents, he went to Cosby's attorney at that time. Cosby's attorneys back then and said, I need you to give me a reason why I should not release the deposition. And the only thing that Cosby's lawyer said at that time was because of what? Embarrassment. Sorry, embarrassment is not a legal definition, and so therefore things started to unravel after that. All right, so uh, this is something right here that you can read. It's called The Atlantic. Okay, it's not fake news. It talks about Cosby and what's going on. So right now, what are we getting at right here? Okay, first of all, we went into this right here. Okay, people really, in my opinion, have done their research. Okay, it's a bunch of emotions and feelings and all this stuff that doesn't have anything to do with anything legal, what's going on, or really the timeline of what everything that's happening. Okay, this is the deposition where Cosby is admitting everything. This is the an article uh, from a reputable news organization, The Atlantic. Okay, now this right here. Did you know that Cosby had an agreement with the state of Pennsylvania? And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want you guys to listen to my man D.L. Hughley, somebody that was in the industry and that knows Bill Cosby. And we're going to hear what he says.
Oh, sure. Can you talk about that? Well, but then I was doing Kiss FM here. Right after CNN, I was doing Kiss FM. I was doing the morning show. Bill Cosby had called in to promote a gig I think he was having in Connecticut or Pennsylvania. And I was like, Bill don't like me, and I don't particularly care for him. So I'm not going to, I'll let you guys do the interviews for pre-tape. And so a girl named Jackie Reed and a cat named Steve Wilson, who were my co-hosts, started interviewing me, but he was such a dick. For 5 minutes, he was such a dick. I was like, Mr. Cosby, what is it you like for us to know? He said, who is this? I said, this is D.L. Hughley. You say nigger, and I don't like your comedy. And he went in, and I was like, with all due respect, Mr. Cosby, I say nigger, but no co-ed has ever woke up drug with her drawers on backwards. And we go.
You hear that? No co-worker has ever woke up drug with her drawers on backwards. So D.L. Hughley is basically saying that this was already in the industry, that Bill was out there doing this stuff way back when. But let DL continue.
Back and forth, back and forth. I said, I respect, you could be my son. I said, but I'm not. And I said, everything you are because of your experiences, and I appreciate that, but you're not going to denigrate what I've been through. And I said, no one's ever, out of all the words people have ever said to me, no one's ever said rape. No one's ever said, we had this argument, right? And so I worked the Hot 107, Kiss FM was owned by Emmys. Bill Cosby, like, that tape will never air. This is a true story. He said, that tape is not going to air. And I said, the fuck it ain't. And 10 minutes later, all the people from Emmys came down, Emmys Communications, took the tape, made sure nobody had a copy of it, said if it ever airs, if this airs, nobody in here will work in radio again. So I know that cat had the power to make people do shit like that.
This was 2009, right?
2009.
So this is way before Hannibal.
But even before that, even if you read Time and Newsweek, in the very back of the paper, it talked about all these rape allegations. I grew up in LA and did warm up for a lot of those shows. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. Like Cliff Huxtable is innocent, but Bill Cosby fucked every one of them. But the character is innocent. The dude ain't. And I don't even think that cats like that thought it was necessarily a wrong thing to do. They just kind of thought it's what you did. You gave some people dope, and they did this. They knew what the deal was. So I wasn't one of those cats who believed he was innocent just because he was funny.
So what did you specifically?
So, if you're listening to D.L. Hughley right now, he's saying that he was never one of those guys that felt as though that Bill Cosby was innocent. And for all you guys talking about, it was NBC trying to set Bill Cosby up, whatever. Listen to this.
Typically here, did you ever have like one of the girls approach you in
Yes,
situation?
yes. It was always in the like. I'll never forget. I ain't gonna say this cat's name, but when they were doing either the It was a show that came out, Different World. He was a cat who was a stage manager there, and they had let him direct one of the shows. He got to direct one of the shows, but he was a stage manager, and he was late. And that man made that one black Bill Cosby made that black man sit down there like he was a child on the floor, like a child. I was like, what is this shit right here? Made him do that in front of me. So I've never had this kind of image that was kind of inundated with the idea that because he was a staggeringly talented cat that he was incapable of doing some of the shit people accuse him of.
Well, I mean, Bill Cosby's always seemed to have, like, sort of a beef with a lot of other black comedians.
Bill Cosby tried to... This is what people don't understand. When people say that you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Bill Cosby, if Bill Cosby had owned NBC, if Bill Cosby, he sat on the board of Warner Brothers, Time Warner, he tried to stop HBO from happening. He hated it.
So I had to pause it right there so you guys can understand something. Bill Cosby tried to buy NBC, okay? But he done. He wasn't successful in buying NBC. But Bill Cosby sat on the board, sat on the board of Warner Brothers. Sat on the board of Warner Brothers. You know how powerful that position is? And, you know, he's going to tell you what Bill Cosby tried to do. You know, so for all those people that's sitting up here saying that NBC trying to set Bill Cosby up, nah, Bill Cosby was trying to set up all the other comedians. That's what the hell was going on. You know? Go ahead, DL. Keep saying what you were saying.
So all the comics you know, love, and respect, from the Chappelles to the Martins to the Tuckers to the Def Jam to the Kings of Comedy, he tried to stop from happening. That's just true. I'm not trying to sell his character. That's absolutely true. He did not want it to happen. He didn't appreciate like all those calls when he would call Bill Cosby, Martin Lawrence, or he would call Eddie Murphy, or he would call Will Smith and tell him how to do that comedy. That's how he was.
I'm gonna leave that right there. So, you know, I was a big Martin Lawrence fan. I'm a big Will Smith fan. I'm definitely a huge Eddie Murphy fan. So you had Bill Cosby back then who tried to use his money and influence to buy NBC. He was unsuccessful at that, but still sat on the board at Warner Brothers and was calling all these other brothers and was trying to was basically trying to shut them down and try to stop them from doing their own brand of comedy. I mean, what the hell is going on here? So you guys up here want to believe that NBC was trying to stop Bill Cosby. Shit, if that's the case, Bill Cosby was doing the work of NBC and Warner Brothers. You know? So, hey, whatever. You guys want to keep on believing that NBC bullshit, you go ahead if you want to. Alright, so, before we get into this, we're going to get into something else. Did you guys know that Bill Cosby had an agreement with the state of Pennsylvania? Okay? So if you guys never saw this video, this is a video that you should watch and pay close attention to. I'm going to play it right now. Now, these are lawyers. These people are lawyers. These people are not people who have opinions and things of that nature. These people know how the courts move. All right, and here we go.
Philadelphia defense attorney William J. Brennan and defense attorney Areva Martin. Marco Mara, what could you as a defense attorney do with the information that I've just provided?
Well, there's no question. I would go to a court and say, look, Judge, we have this agreement. It's done. It's an immunity agreement, which means you simply cannot use my client's testimony against him. It is the only reason why he testified was because of the agreement, and it needs to be suppressed. Now, I will tell you, Michael, there are a lot of problems with the way Bill Cosby's lawyers handled or failed to handle this 10 years ago. Why this agreement was not ironclad and in writing kept away in a lawyer's safe somewhere to use for a precise time like this, I have no idea.
Okay, so did y'all hear that? Did you hear that? Back then, 10 years ago, Bill Cosby had what you call an immunity agreement with the state of Pennsylvania that he and the thing about it is he had this agreement, but his lawyer back then, for whatever reason, never wrote it down. It was never on paper. It was never in writing. Not saying that it's not valid, but it's never in writing. Let's go.
Plus, immunity agreements, even if they existed, are not ironclad. They're not 100%. And there's a lot of ways this information can still be used against Bill Cosby if he doesn't act appropriately under that supposed agreement.
Bill Brennan, give me the view from the ground in suburban Philadelphia on this issue of immunity, because I know that the current DA says, hey, there's a protocol that one must follow for immunity, but immunity is provided by a court. I think this is Castor in the email saying, I exercised my DA's discretion.
Absolutely, Michael. I think to call this an immunity agreement is really to play into the hands of the current district attorney, because in his response, he says there are formal protocols for immunity agreements, and they weren't followed here. This is a promise by the former district attorney who had the authority to bind the Commonwealth in perpetuity, not to prosecute. It's very well, and I agree with Mark. It is curious that this was not reduced to writing, but it's a very strong possibility that Mr. Cosby may not have wanted a quote-unquote immunity agreement. Immunity infers to the public that you have criminal exposure and that because of the largesse of the prosecutor, you're getting a pass when you're a crime. And let's go back to 2004, 2005. Dr. Huxtable was the most popular guy in America. I don't think that he wanted an immunity agreement. He wanted what he got, which is a binding promise not to prosecute. And
You hear that? So, Cosby's lawyer hooks up with the DA at the time. And what happens is they come up with this agreement saying that Cosby, we're not going to charge you with anything. And they never write it down. The DA doesn't write it down. And Cosby's lawyer doesn't write it down. So let's get on that. And we're going to find out who Cosby's lawyer was and what really happened. Let's go.
he gave up a valuable right in testifying under oath at the civil deposition. That bell can never be unrung, and a subsequent prosecutor should not, and hopefully will not, be able to invalidate the agreement that Mr. Castor made.
Ariva, I know this is complicated for non-lawyers, so let me walk through 2 steps, and then I'm eager to hear what you have to say. A petition was filed last Monday by Cosby's lawyers. Here's an excerpt. The Commonwealth, through then District Attorney Bruce Castor, promised in 2005 that Mr. Cosby would not be charged in connection with these allegations in exchange for Mr. Cosby giving testimony in the complainant's civil case. And then this line, which I've highlighted, Mr. Castor reminded the district attorney's office about that agreement in 2015 before these charges were brought. And Ariva, there was no further explanation as to how former DA Castor had reminded them. Now we know he did it in writing on September 23rd, 3 full months before they charged Cosby. And here's another excerpt from the email that he sent. With the agreement of the defense lawyer and Andrea's lawyers, I intentionally and specifically bound the Commonwealth that there would be no state prosecution of Cosby in order to remove him from the ability to claim his Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination, thus forcing him to sit for a deposition under oath.
Do you guys understand what's going on here? You know, he had to do this deposition. That's why Cosby walked away and started talking all this mad shit back then. That's why he wasn't charged with anything, you know, because he was under the impression that okay, I'm gonna do this deposition. I'm gonna tell everything, and I'm good. I'm not hard to worry about anything because I can't be charged with anything because the state of Pennsylvania is not going to charge me with anything. Andre Constant walked away with her $3 million. I'm gonna tell everything that's going what I did, and it's going to get sealed, and now it's a done deal. You know, but you got this overzealous DA that done came in, and this is my opinion on these things. My opinion is this. Given this little tidbit, this piece of evidence right here, this email, okay, that's going out, uh, Cosby may not see any time in jail. So you guys up there, so why do you say he may not see any time in jail? The reason why I'm saying that he may not see any time in jail at all, because right now, number one, he's on house arrest. That's number one. Number two, he's on house arrest, waiting for the appeal. Number three, if in fact that the lawyers should not try the case based on what happened to Constant. That shouldn't be that shouldn't be what the case is tried on. It should he should try the case based on this agreement right here or this promise that the state gave to Cosby. Let's go.
So Castor's side of it, which will be challenged, I'm sure, by the prosecution, is to say, I was trying to do her a favor. I couldn't meet the criminal burden. I tried to set the table for her to get paid in the civil case. Your reaction?
Well, Michael, I think this plays very nicely into what Cosby's attorneys have been saying over the last couple of weeks, which is that the current DA is using Cosby's case to fulfill a political promise that he made, not to pursue justice, not to follow where the evidence takes him, but really to just say to the Commonwealth, look, I promised you when I was running for DA that I would prosecute Bill Cosby no matter what. And now I'm doing what I promised you. This is very troubling to me as a citizen, and anyone should be very troubled by the fact that a district attorney can use his powers, the government power that he possesses, to make a promise, and then a subsequent district attorney can try to undermine that promise simply to fulfill his own political ambition. So I think this is a troubling matter. I hope the case is dismissed, because this, I think, undermines everything we believe in this country about the ability to trust what our government officials tell us and what they do.
Ariva, it occurs to me that the emotional fate of 50 different women is now resting on this one case because it's the only case where he faces criminal charges.
And it's a sad thing because this is a prime example of such incompetence. I cannot believe that the current district attorney didn't have this information available to him before he filed these charges, yet he wants the entire public, he wants this case to rest on this deposition testimony when we now know that the former district attorney made a very specific promise not to ever use this testimony in a court of law. So I don't see how he can move forward with any kind of integrity to prosecute Bill Cosby on the basis of this deposition.
Marco Mapp.
Now, this is the whole thing of what she's saying. She's mixing emotion into legality, and you can't do that, because if Cosby's lawyer is not presenting this argument to the judge saying we have this we have this agreement and he cannot be charged underneath the state, well, shoot, it's too late because the DA already won that argument. They already uncovered the deposition and find out that it was a crime. So now they have to argue, that's why the jurors only took but 12 hours and charged Cosby, because the evidence was the deposition. And in the deposition, Cosby admitted to committing a crime because Constant never consented. All right, so let's go.
I don't don't want to convey to people at home that this will be uncontested. I anticipate, and I have a statement that I'll get to in a moment, that it will absolutely be contested by the current DA, who will say, we don't believe there was an agreement, or to the extent there was, it wasn't binding, or he'll say that even the former DA left open the door that he would bring charges at a later date. Mark O'Mara.
Which he did. Let's back up a little bit. An immunity agreement is a tool used by a prosecutor, and I, as a prosecutor, can say, I won't use this information against you. But the idea that they promised forevermore never to prosecute Cosby would be way outside the norm of an immunity agreement and inappropriate. What they can't do is use that precise statement against him in their case in chief, meaning if there's other information out there, and I'll give you an example, we now have similar, what we call, Michael, similar fact evidence. He has a number of other victims out there that he could bring in and say, the facts of that case are so similar to the facts of this case that this jury should hear about it. That similar fact evidence was not available 10 years ago, and it's very significant evidence. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if Cosby were to get on the stand and say something in derogation or opposition to what he said in the deposition, it can still be used. If I go in and say the light was red in my deposition, I go to trial and say the light was green, even with an immunity agreement for what we call impeachment, they could then use my deposition statement. So there's a lot of nuances here that are not going to be vetted out by one.
Understood.
You guys understand what's going on here? Let's deal with the second question first. That's why Cosby didn't testify. Because if Cosby, when Cosby went and said something different that was in the deposition, he probably would have went straight to jail. So that was a smart move on his behalf by not getting up there to testify, because in the deposition, he had already committed to doing a crime, as I stated before. So you have to listen to what these lawyers are saying here and how they will move. Now, the reason being is this: is that let's go back and listen to his first statement, what he was saying. That the evidence came against him. So basically, if all the people was coming out and saying that Cosby did this, then he would have done it. The problem is this for Cosby, and it is that in his deposition, which I just got finished reading to you guys, is that he admitted to doing the same thing or something similar to what this lawyer was just saying to other women in the deposition. So you feel me? So not only was he talking about consent in the deposition, but he was talking about other women that he gave quaaludes to back in the 70s, back in 2000. These women that he was doing. D.L. Hughley just testified in that interview that everybody knew that Bill Cosby was doing that. So it's crazy. Let's go.
But Michael,
Decision.
Can I make one other observation to Bill Brennan? Bill, we're both lawyers in the Philadelphia area, and that there's been a lot of head scratching among attorneys who say, why the heck did Cosby speak so openly in his civil deposition, especially when he had such a skilled attorney at his side? Wouldn't this email explain it? I mean, it all kind of fits, doesn't it, that Cosby spoke so freely because he was testifying without any fear that he might get charged for that which he was about to say.
Absolutely. At the time that the agreement was reached, Bruce Castor was the elected district attorney of Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. In that capacity, he had the absolute authority to bind the Commonwealth, not just during his administration, but through his successors' administrations, to this agreement. And the problem is, it's fundamentally unfair to renege on the agreement. Mr. Cosby gave up one of the most valuable rights we possess, the right against self-incrimination, based upon the promise of the district attorney at the time, Mr. Castor, that he would not be prosecuted. Now, it becomes hot fodder during a election campaign here in Montgomery County in the fall of 2015, and the first assistant district attorney, who's now the DA, runs basically on this issue. Similar to the 88 Bush-Dukakis campaign, when the pardon of Willie Horton was bannered about.
A political issue.
The
Hey,
current
let me
district
ask.
attorney basically says, I'll prosecute if you elect me.
I need to.
Okay. So, this is the thing. This is the thing. It was a lot of mistakes going on. According to these attorneys, all four of them are attorneys. A lot of mistakes that was being made back then in 2004. Cosby had an agreement. The lawyer didn't write it down. You know, that was mistake number one. You know, mistake, which is probably the biggest mistake that was going on. Didn't write it down. Mistake number two, the DA didn't write it down. But the biggest question here is that mistake number three. I'm not certain, and I don't even know. He said that at the beginning of this interview with these people, he said I would go to the judge and I would tell the judge, listen, we had a promise of that basically Cosby, for all intents and purposes, people always talk about, yeah, the white man, you know, did this and the white man did that or whatever like that. And, you know, setting them up and all this bullshit, right? But in Cosby's situation, the white people back then was the person that got him off. You know what I mean? And the person that was in his law, and the person that was in his corner, his lawyer at the time, was doing the best, I guess he could, because obviously Cosby walked away and was able to walk around for about 10 years before this shit caught back up to him. But you know, this you know, Cosby got too much money to be caught up in, you know, this is racial and getting everybody wild up. Cosby really never came out and made a statement, you know. Uh, you know, he never talked about what happened in his deposition and why he admitted. And, you know, I mean, even not saying, I mean, you know, you don't want nobody, he's not going to tell on himself. But in the deposition, he actually told on himself, you know. But anyway, let's continue.
Ask Ariva something. Ariva, I know that the current DA is going to rely on a press release that Bruce Castor, the former DA, issued back in 2005. Here's what it looks like if we could just put it up on the screen. This is the press release that was issued February 17 of 05. There's one line in it, in the final paragraph, that the current DA no doubt will zero in on. It says, District Attorney cautions all parties that he will reconsider this decision should the need arise, which seems on its face to suggest that the door was always left open to go after Cosby if there were new information coming to light. But I take note of the fact of the preceding sentence. Big paragraph, put it up on the screen if you wouldn't mind. The district attorney does not intend to expound publicly on the details of his decision for fear that his opinions and analysis might be given undue weight by jurors in any contemplated civil action. Here's the point I'm trying to make. I think that the old DA is going to say, when I talked about leaving the door open, I meant to me speaking publicly. Hopefully you follow that issue, Ariva, and can say something about it.
Yeah, I think the former DA is double talking, and he has this private agreement that he's made with Mr. Cosby's attorney, but yet he's issuing this press release where he's talking in code. I just think he has a fundamental problem here, as William has said. You cannot make a promise to a citizen not to prosecute him and encourage him to talk freely about things that could be prosecutable, and then 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later, find that person in that situation of being prosecuted on the very issue that you said you would not.
Now, you hear what she's saying right here? You guys up here talking, you know, all the stuff she's saying. You cannot make a promise to a citizen. To a citizen, it's power. There's power in being a citizen, and she's right. You can't make you cannot make that promise to a citizen. But you know, Let's continue.
So when he talked about prosecuting Cosby recently using that deposition, I think that's disingenuous, and I think it's fundamentally unfair, and I hope the judge sees it that way.
Let's wrap up as follows. Each one of you gets a closing statement on the significance of this email sent by the old DA to the then DA 3 months before they charged Bill Cosby, saying, hey, you can't do this because we cut a deal. Marco Mara, sum up.
No question is going to be significant. I have no idea why it wasn't in writing, and I don't even know why his civil lawyers back then had him sit for a deposition when the plan always was to settle this case out. Why even have a deposition? I think that was the second mistake they made. First big mistake, this should have been in writing and ironclad, and it may trash the present prosecution against Cosby.
You heard what he said? This is a lawyer right here. He said the lawyer back then, Cosby's lawyer back then, made 2 mistakes. 2 big, huge mistakes. So first of all, Cosby fucking told on himself and did all this bullshit. You know what I mean? Was doing this stuff for years and years and years. Kept going to the cookie jar until he got caught up. You know. So that's what happened. So then Cosby lawyered up. He gets with a lawyer that gets him off but doesn't write anything down. That's number one. And then on top of that, he gets Cosby to pay the woman $3.8 million or 3 point whatever, it was over $3 million, you know, but still gets him gets him to depose, right? So he's sitting in a deposition, and my opinion is that he made another mistake because in the deposition, he's talking about all these other women that he had sex with and did the same thing to, which had nothing to do with the civil case that had to do with Constant. So, in my opinion, it was 3 things that this lawyer did that messed up Bill Cosby. Okay, let's continue.
You raise a great point, right? Well, if the fix was in to just make the civil case go away, then why not write the check without him ever sitting for it? Bill Brennan, you wrap up.
Michael, I think it's as simple as this. The Commonwealth made a deal with Mr. Cosby. In reliance now to his detriment, he gave testimony he otherwise could have protected himself by invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. That bell cannot be unrung, and this case should be dismissed. The Commonwealth should honor its deal.
Areva Martin, your final thought.
Prosecution shouldn't be based on political ambitions of district attorneys. That district attorney's decision to run for office should not have hinged on whether he could prosecute Mr. Cosby on evidence that had been previously agreed never to be used in a court of law.
All right, so even though she said what she said, the point is that they did it anyway. So, you know, doesn't make any sense. They did it anyway. So, you know, but the thing about it is they keep talking about this lawyer. So basically, even though the lawyer that Cosby used, so this case is not about a crime. Cosby committed the crime. You know, you got to make this case about the contract or the agreement or the promise. And is that contract, agreement, or promise or whatever it is valid? And that's what when this case goes to appeal to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, that's what it should be about. What is that promise, that agreement, or that contract valid? And because it was an oral one, who knows how the Supreme Court is going to rule on that? Because, like I said, Cosby went to the cookie jar too many times. He got off, and so you would think that this lawyer that was helping Bill Cosby out back then get off, paid the chick $3.3 million, so he, you know, what I mean, he's walking around doing his thing, running his mouth, doing instead of laying low, knowing that he got all this dirt on him. He should have been laying low like OJ, OJ started running his mouth, and you know how OJ got caught back up. Cosby running his mouth, and now Cosby get caught back up. I don't understand what's wrong with these brothers. You know what I mean? You out here doing dirt, lay low. You know what I mean? Lay low. You shouldn't be running your mouth. Just lay low. Anyway, you would think that the lawyer that got that helped Cosby out, and now that Cosby is in this mess, how come Cosby can't use the same lawyer to get him out of this mess? Well, we're gonna go right into it. And this is the lawyer right here. His name is Walter Phillips Jr. And guess what? He was 76. He was a prosecutor. He was Cosby's lawyer. And on February 7th, 2015, after surgery, he caught an infection and he died. So that's the reason why Bill Cosby, I believe, or my opinion is in all this mess. Because if this guy was still alive, I think he will be able to testify and help Bill Cosby out. But unfortunately, Bill Cosby has the worst of luck in all this. And this guy, his lawyer that got him the deal back then, never wrote anything down. You know, uh, he died. He died. So uh, so that's what happened. So just looking at the timeline of everything that's going on, it doesn't have anything to do with all these conspiracy theories or whatever like that. The thing is that you had Cosby, who was a rich black man who was teaching people about how to be moral, and he was doing all this dirt himself, you know. And when he got in trouble, he didn't even go to the black man or a black lawyer to help him out. You know what he did? He went to the white man to help him out, to get him off. The white man did get him off. He got to walking for 10 years. But then his dirt caught back up to him. And now now he's back in this position. This case is not about what he did to Constant. He already admitted to commit a crime on Constant and to other women in the case. This case is about agreements and contracts. And I'll talk to you guys